Hey everyone, I'm Laura Hypnosis, but before I get into this video, I want to ask you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and make sure you hit the bell as well so that you can stay up to date whenever I post a new video on tarot or anything metaphysical. Alright, so now for today, I wanted to talk to you folks about something a little different than my normal, which is related to ghosts, spirits, anything that is not of a physical form. Now, a few days ago, Mabon for this year occurred, and I got together with a few friends who we all did a ceremony of sorts, and by the end of the ceremony I was also channeling a few spirits, which is not an unusual thing. I am able to do that periodically, so I wanted to share the information I had on that with you all so that some of you out there who might be watching this might have this ability as well. And I want to be able to help direct people in a way so that they are not scared of their own abilities or what they're tapping into, and also know how to appropriately handle this. I don't want anybody dabbling in something when they're unsure of themselves and then getting more than what they can handle. So keep that in mind. Now, for me personally, like when I was a teenager, I was doing some paranormal investigations with a group, and I learned a lot from them at the time. And you know what, when I first started, of course, though, I just wanted to know more about these things that I really didn't have any insight or knowledge on. So ultimately, I did find out more and more little bits and pieces of information about the mechanics of ghosts, I guess you would say, or spirits. But no matter what else I can take away from the experience and what I can share with you, they're more often than not people. And it's just people without a body. Now, as I got older and I got more into other types of spiritual practices, and especially with my hypnosis work, I got to use my abilities and skills with that, my training with that, to dive into deeper parts of my subconscious, which also tie in together with our spirit, our soul of sorts, if you want to, whatever you want to call the inner you. It resides in your subconscious mind. And ultimately, I've been able to connect with many entities that are not of the physical plane, including my personal spirit guides, other interdimensional entities, other spirits, human spirits. And I do want to mention how there are non-human entities, but in my personal experience, I haven't come across any that I couldn't handle. Not so people want to demonize everything that bumps in the night, you know, and that's not necessarily the case. I'm not negating that there definitely can be negative or malintended entities out there, but again, I'm starting this video to try to help others understand what they're dealing with so that they're not afraid or not bumping into these things accidentally. Now, again, so with me channeling and getting to communicate with entities not of the physical plane, you have to first and foremost get a solid, grounded understanding of yourself. Confidence is key, really, and not in an egotistical sense, but truly understanding what your personal boundaries are. Understanding yourself is understanding your boundaries. When you have a lower sense of self-esteem, or if you're coming from a place of uncertainty with what you stand for or what your virtues are, what your values are, that can be a problem when trying to channel spirits or interacting with spirits, because there are the kinds that will take advantage of that. Opportunistic spirits, I would call them. And again, I don't look at them as evil, demonic beings, but it's simply the fact that they see, or not actually see, but feel, sense, or come across humans, living humans, that when you're in that place energetically, you are kind of can be at sometimes a calling card for these opportunistic spirits to just like, hey, I'm just going to take advantage of this person because of where they're at. And that's just kind of how they sustain themselves. It's just what they do. It's what they know. So I don't necessarily call that bad. It's just that's all they know. Now, as you get more and more into this sort of communications or interactions, again, the more confident you become with yourself and who you are, you're going to be less likely to attract these malintended entities. They're not going to be drawn to you. They're just not going to want to stick around because you're not going to give them what they want energetically. So if there is some sort of, like let's say your house is haunted and you're having poltergeist or activities going on, and it surprises you, it scares you all the time, even if it's just simply like, oh, the book on the shelf, it moved just slightly, you know what, they're going to get a lot out of you just by doing those small tasks. They're going to get that energy that they can feed off of you from. So you want to be aware of how you're reacting to these things, because that's going to integrate with whatever entities are around. So as you sort of become more aware of how you are reacting to whatever might be making itself known to you in a house or home or wherever you find yourself, you kind of have to, again, establish, like, okay, if I am confident with myself, if I am here and in tune with me and my boundaries, you kind of have this strength about you where you understand that nothing can truly harm you. That's truly, they don't care. Even the malintended ones, they're not caring how they hurt you. They're not wanting to necessarily hurt you. They just want to get a reaction out of you. And if hurting you happens to be a part of the process, they might try. Like some people experience, little scratches that happen out of nowhere. That can happen. But again, those things are less likely to happen when you are well grounded with yourself and very in tune with yourself. So I've known people in the past that, they were trying to prove themselves. Like, look at me, I'm a big tough guy, or I'm so, they're being a little macho about trying to go ghost hunting. Again, they were trying to prove something to themselves. You don't want to do that. That's how you get yourself into trouble, because there are entities out there that will also take advantage of you. Because when you are trying to prove something, that you can command these ghosts or get something from these ghosts, you're just trying, it stems from a place of trying to overcome your own fears. And they know that. They don't need to know what you're saying to them to feel where the root of this is coming from. They understand beings because, again, they're energetic beings more than anything. They don't have a physical body. So they're not necessarily having to respond to what our audible words are. They kind of know where we're coming from in an energetic sense, a psychic sort of sense. And so at that point, again, don't go into this with an ego in mind or trying to be macho about this, trying to get a ghost to react so you can catch it on video and prove it to your friends or prove it to yourself. This is not about proving anything. This is about, if you're experiencing these things, how to handle this, because you don't want to poke the bear, so to speak. So some people that just happen to be involved with some light haunting, more often than not, the entities that are trying to make themselves known, if they move something or if little things are happening here or there, they simply want your attention. They're not necessarily intending to scare you. Sometimes it can be a deceased relative that, they don't know how to get in touch with you or make they can't pick up the call or the phone to call you, but they need to be in touch with you, or they want you to know that they're there. So oftentimes they're just making themselves known to get your attention. That's not meant to scare you, though, so be aware about that. Now, for some of you that are able to sense these figures and understand that there is a spirit there, but you're just unsure, okay, if I communicate with this, I don't know if I truly am talking to a good spirit or a bad spirit. You don't want to approach it with that idea, because, again, that comes from fear. And that fear is what's going to determine what happens next. So if you're not confident about it, don't do it. By all means, don't do it. Get somebody, if you know a professional that You trust them, that they have this sense of, you have to feel that you can trust these people, for one, because there are people out there that, again, are kind of going for the macho route, saying they know what they're doing when they don't. So be very choosy about who you're asking to help you with. Now, I have friends that have asked me to help them with spiritual activity going on in their home. For one instance, there are little things happening, TVs getting turned on and off, or electrical interferences here and there, and other activities. I came to their house, and I sat and I closed my eyes and I focused to try to pick up on what entities I felt in the home. And I picked up on a young teenage girl that was lost in her own way. She wasn't related to the family that resided in the home, but because of the strong sense of family that was there, she was attracted to that, like an energetic, like, this is something that feels good, I want to be a part of this. So she went there because she was lost. Now, a part of this, where she's at and why she was lost. Now, when a person dies and their spirit moves on, we, even when we're alive, our consciousness is fractured. We're kind of split. Any of your emotions that have a strong pull to them, whether or not it can be unfinished business, that aspect of your consciousness can choose after you die to remain as spirit, while the rest of you hypothetically could move on to wherever else it chooses to go, even if it chooses to reincarnate. There's still that aspect of consciousness that is unresolved, that remains in kind of this limbo stage, or even if it's not limbo, the place where ghosts kind of typically interact with you. Now, at that point, she's trying to find herself. She's lost. The rest of her is kind of gone. She doesn't know the spirit that I was talking about before, of course. She was just lost for where she was at. And so she was trying to make herself known to the people that lived in the house, my friend in particular. And when I finally went there to make contact with this entity to find out what it needs, why it's there, it was just needing to be understood in order to resolve her own trauma, her own sense of being lost. She just wanted to find herself again. So acknowledging that this spirit, this entity was there, this teenage girl was there. Now the current alive residents of the household could interact with this or understand that this entity is there and not get freaked out by it, but still kind of honor her in a way as saying, like, yes, hi, you're fine to be here. We understand that. Looking at the spirit with empathy is a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. Don't just automatically fear that because there's a ghost in your house that you need to be on guard. Like, nope, I don't want you in here. Be gone. Because again, that's coming from a place of fear. It's not about being fearful about these things. It's learning how to show your empathy towards an energetic being so that in due time they will heal. And you're part of that energy of healing. And you can help with them move on. So you want to help with that more than anything. It's not about proving something. It's not about getting rid of something, because sometimes they can be your best friend. They've got your back if you let them stay. If they're, again, just if they don't feel as if you're making them out to be the bad guy. So another entity that was making itself known at another friend's house of mine kept turning on not the stove, the oven. And just minutely, not very much, so nothing totally dangerous. It was just like a little nod that turned the oven on. But still, we wanted to make sure we got to the bottom of why this spirit was doing this sooner rather than later so that this wouldn't escalate. And what came to be known was that my friend, being female in this lifetime, in a prior lifetime, in a previous incarnation, in the 40s it seemed like, was a male. And in that lifetime had a wife who felt so misunderstood by her husband. It's like, why don't you just, there was such a disconnect that she got so upset and in a fit of rage at her husband neglecting her feelings, went and slammed his head on a countertop, ultimately giving him a severe head wound, and he died from it. She didn't intend in that lifetime to kill him. That was just, she felt like that was all that she could get out for him to recognize her, to see her. And so then she ended up committing suicide. Now, that was in the 40s when this particular thing happened, when that came to me. And that consciousness, that unresolved trauma that she carried with herself, that continued on since the 40s. So since the 40s, this unresolved trauma has been centered around this energy for her to manifest and be stuck in. So again, the rest of this spirit could have potentially moved on, but has been following her husband, who is now incarnated again and is now female, has been following her all these years, all this time, in order to find some resolve to it all. Following them so that, it's like, just notice me. Because she's been stuck in that pain, in that little bubble of pain and hurt for so long. Now, they're without a body, without a physical form. Time is not the same for them as it is here, so it's easier for that energy to get stuck and not heal and be unchanging and unmoving. So when we were there, we were working with communicating with the spirit so that we could understand what they needed from my friend, from them now, in order for them to move on, in order for them to feel remedied. Now, she's not going anywhere anytime soon. It's still a work in progress. But ultimately, this spirit just, again, wants this connection, wants this recognition that she didn't get in her time when she was alive in the 40s from that lifetime. So there's a big point to just trusting that, like, okay, you're not going to harm me. I'm going to allow you to be here. We're going to work things out. Again, as if you have to work with another human being. And again, it's not the same thing, I understand, as a physical human. But the consciousness is an element that is human. The consciousness is there in order to interact with you for a reason. And so take it upon yourself with whatever you can to show empathy so that you are helping heal those old wounds rather than perpetuating the wounds and continuing the cycle of either abandonment or neglect, because that can be an issue. We don't want to continue that anymore. We want to heal so that growth can occur from the living and the departed. So again, as you continue to interact with spirits when these occurrences happen, know yourself, know where you're coming from. You don't want it to be a place of fear. You don't want it to be a place out of ego trying to hunt these things down and prove something. You want to be a part of the healing cycle. You want to be a part of recognizing that which has been ignored and rejected. And by all means, if you have no other options and you feel you need to go through certain procedures in order to protect yourself further, by all means. I've known other psychics and other sensitives that do that, or they'll keep a specific crystal on themselves when they're interacting with spirits because they don't want anything bad happening or following them home. I totally get it. Do what you feel you need to do when you have no other option, but understand, again, where are you feeling the need to do that? What is that stemming from? Is it stemming from fear? Because that can be a perpetuator of negative if you're in that bubble or that headspace of fear. But when you are able to eliminate the fear and it no longer be a concern on what you are interacting with, then truly nothing will harm you or interact with you in a negative way. And another thing to understand, because some people get concerned like, oh, if I allow a ghost in my house, are they going to see me naked? Oh, and they get all, self-conscious about that sort of thing. But again, they don't have a physical body, no physical eyes. They do not perceive things even in the physical plane. They are aware of things in the physical plane. Because even here now, we are projecting a certain energy. Everything is energy. So they're kind of navigating the landscape based off of what they can sense and feel energetically. They're not seeing anything. I mean, they don't really care at that point. They don't have it. There's no reason for them to care at that point. So don't let that concern bother you. I mean, again, be confident with yourself. Be confident that they're not here to harm you or alarm you. More often than not, they're not trying to harm you. They just need some sort of attention in some capacity. And when we can get down to the bottom of what that need is, we can help heal that. And then they move on. Or even still, in some situations, when we heal those wounds, they can now be some sort of, potentially a guardian or spirit guide if they are related to you. Even if that's not always been the case, that evolution, like again, helping address them and heal them, then you're making a friend, and then they can want to look out for you, and they help with keeping away other negative spirits of sorts. I have run into that situation before, and I think that's a beautiful thing. Again, looking at them as they were once human. Their consciousness is a part of the human consciousness. That's not something to demonize just because you can't see a physical body behind them. There is far more out there that is interacting with us that we're blind to, that we don't have to be blind to. When we turn a blind eye to it, that's when it feels ignored. That's when it feels unincorporated and can start to cause problems at that point. So we have to learn, how do we heal or bridge together these elements so that we are not perpetuating this separation and thus causing more problems. We want to connect with these spirits so that they are in a positive vibrational space, and thus also we in turn get to a positive vibrational space. Alright, so I'm going to wrap it up for today. I hope this was helpful or informative for you. And by all means, if you have any questions at all for me, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment down below and ask away. And again, stay tuned to see what topic I cover next week. And if you want to suggest something in the comments, let me know. I'd love to hear what other subjects you'd like me to talk about in the esoteric or metaphysical sense. And please share this video with others if you think it's pertinent to somebody. If someone you know is going through some spiritual activity or might be sensing things that they're unsure of, share this video with them. Get this circulating so that it can help as many people as possible, because this is something that not everybody likes to talk openly about. So if I can help in any way, I'd love to be of service. Alright, so I'll catch you again next week. Thanks for tuning in today, and I'll see ya. Bye.